She has her sheet. Everyone else knows. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Okay. Did we do 18? We're on 19. Okay. I'll get this down eventually. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 17th day of May, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 16 entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures. Text 19 at the bottom of page 632. Tam aham vishatach kruran Samsareshu Naradaman Chapami Ajasram Ashubhan Asurishu Eva Yonishu Tanaham Dushatakruran Samsareshu Naradaman Chapam Mijasram Ashubhan Asuri Sheva Yonishu Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Mijasram Ashubhan Asuri Sheva Yonishu Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Mijasam Ashubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. Anyone on this side want to try? Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul. Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Yajasram Asubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. You will in a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Let the initiated devotees go first. Brother Mandala. Haribol. Welcome. Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Vijasram Ashubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. Tanaham Vishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Vijasram Ashubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. Go ahead. Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradhaman Chapam Vijasram Ashubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradaman Chipam. No, you're doing good. You're doing good. Keep going. Chapam Yajasram Ashubhan Asuri Sheva Yonishu. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Anyone over there want to try? No? Tanaham Dvishatakuran Samsareshu Naradaman Chapam Vijasram Ashubhan Asuri Sheva Yonishu. Okay, I'll read the synonyms myself. Just read along. Tan, those, aham, I, dvishatak, envious, kruran, mischievous, samsareshu, into the ocean of material existence. Nara Adaman, the lowest of mankind. Chapami, I put. Ajasram, perpetually. Ashubhan, inauspicious. Asurishu, demoniac. Eva, certainly. Yonishu, into the wombs. Translation. Krishna says, those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Purport. In this verse it is clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. The demoniac person may not agree to accept the supremacy of the Lord, and it is a fact that he may act according to his own whims. But his next birth will depend on the decision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not on himself. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, it is stated that an individual soul, after his death, is put into the womb of a mother where he gets a particular type of body under the supervision of superior power. Therefore, in the material existence, we find so many species of life, animals, insects, men, and so on. All are arranged by the superior power. They are not accidental. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Such demoniac species of men are held to be always full of lust, always violent and hateful, and always unclean. The many kinds of hunters in the jungle are considered to belong to the demoniac species of life. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. Excuse me. Time out while I chew the tulsi leaf, which is easily caught in the throat. It's not so good to put that in the water that you're actually going to drink. I'm sorry? I swallowed it, but it tends to get caught in there. All right. Back to the verse in purport. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unminatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So, after a very graphic description of the nature of the divine, which we had at the beginning of this chapter, I think 26 qualities were mentioned, and an extensive description of the demoniac, now the fate is being discussed, and Krishna is saying that those, I think he's referring to those he's described in previous verses, who are envious and mischievous, and who are lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Now this perpetually doesn't mean forever. There's no eternal damnation in Krishna consciousness. Every living entity can ultimately be redeemed, because we keep getting chances. We got our chance right now, and we're using it properly. The human beings, by hearing the Bhagavad Gita, taking up Krishna consciousness. But millions and billions of people don't do that. And so, what's their fate? Well, Prabhupada is referring in this verse, in this purport, to a verse in the 3rd canto he refers to here. And it goes like this: Karmana daivanetrena jantur deho papatye striyapavishta uranam pungsoreta kanashya. That according to one's karma, one's own activities, and as soon as you do an activity, there's a result of the activity, a good reaction or a bad reaction, depending on how much you're adhering to the laws of nature and the laws of God. Now, if you don't know what they are, or if you deny the very existence of God, then you'll undoubtedly be violating those laws because you'll be working on the impetus of lust, greed, anger, all of these demoniac impetuses. So that's why knowledge is so essential. Not only knowledge theoretically, but knowledge that you take as evidence for what you should do and what you should not do. In other words, I may know the Bhagavad Gita because I studied it in college. I had a course in Indian religion or Eastern religion, and Bhagavad Gita was very fascinating, and I got a B in that course. I studied, and you don't know. You know if you take the knowledge into your heart and you accept it, that, okay, I have to change. I have to change my behavior according to this because my destiny depends on it. This is like the first lesson of not even just Krishna consciousness, but Eastern understanding, wisdom. And that is that we have, as human beings, we have a freedom to determine our destiny. And we should know those activities that will be most auspicious for future destiny, and those that are going to get us into trouble. Here in this chapter, Krishna is describing those qualities which, if we cultivate, will lead us to hellish species of life for untold thousands of years. It's really a very serious business. People don't really think, they see us dancing on the street, and they don't think this is the most serious thing. We're taking our human life seriously and acting according to tried and tested knowledge, profound knowledge, that will help us to navigate this dangerous world we're in, and so that we can make progress in getting out of it. We may not immediately get liberation, that's a reality. But if we can take steps A, B, C, D, and F, and G, then next life we can take up and do H, I, J like that. But if we have no knowledge, we're just going to get ourselves more and more confused. So, karmana daivanetana, this very, very nice phrase. Karmana means your activities and the results of them, both. Daivanetana, netana means supervision. Now, daiva doesn't necessarily always mean the super soul. It also has to do with the demigods and things like that. Just like our physical activities. There are so many gods. Prabhupada makes the point that even the blinking of the eyes is under a demigod, a deva. In other words, I'm under supervision. There's a god of the earth, Bhumi. There's a god of the air, Vayu. There's a god of the waters, Varuna. There's a sun god. All of the things that we take for granted as gifts, they're under supervision of higher powers, higher intelligences. Yeah, we'll have time for questions. Just, if you want to take notes, you can. So we're dependent on these things happening. This is one of the amazing things about climate change, that the human beings, in their headlong attempt to exploit nature, in various ways, are making it an unlivable planet. It's certainly making, for the poor, many millions of species of life in the ocean is making it unlivable. We know, does anyone here not believe in climate change? Oh, that's good. Not only, climate change, but anthropogenic climate change, that we're doing it. It's not just some accident of nature. And the chief way we're doing it is by pouring out these greenhouse gases, chiefly carbon dioxide, by all these millions and millions of cars and all these other things we're burning, right? It's science. The Exxon, Exxon Oil, they're scientists, they're sharp. They're the sharpest guys. They knew this back in the early 90s, and it was understood. And what was their response? Well, how can we, postpone the reckoning for as long as possible so we can keep making billions of dollars? Just like the cigarette makers. We'll pay this doctor and that doctor to write a paper or get on Life magazine and do an ad describing it. It hasn't yet been fully confirmed that cigarette smoking is hazardous to your health. So finally it took a congressional investigation. They hauled these guys, there's a famous, all the leaders of the thing, and they investigated it, and they all agreed, yeah, we know it's bad, it's horrible. And so then they agreed to put the little notice on the thing, it's hazardous to your health. Now cigarette smoking is down, but vaping is up. and all these other things are, So the point I'm making is that we have been, everything is under control. There's an intelligence under everything. Nothing is happening by chance. Everything there's an intelligence, the supreme intelligence. If we can get in tune with the supreme intelligence, we don't have to worry about all of the deputies. We don't have to worship the sun god and Lord Shiva and Durga and make sure and cover all our bases. No. We simply have to worship Krishna and act according to his principles. And when you boil it down, the lifestyle is one of as simple as possible. You don't need, if you are acting in such a way and you're performing devotional service, getting in touch with Krishna, you will experience a higher pleasure, and you will feel and you will realize, I don't need all this other stuff. The things that I was involved with, that I thought I needed, so heavily, I don't really need that. And this is a tremendous. This itself is liberation. Is a sense of liberation. To know how many things you can do without, you can live simply. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. It's like, it's satisfying. It goes deep. The chanting of the holy name goes deep. And transforms your life, transforms your personality, and all of the things reviewing my life. I'm 75 years old. I've been in this movement over 50 years, and when I joined, it was the 60s. Even though it was 72, 73, the 60s bled into the early 70s. Believe me, the whole mood. And after a short time in the movement, I said, "Whoa, boy, I survived." That I didn't get myself entangled in some life, brain-destroying experience, and then just become a vegetable. As so many of my friends, or do things illegal, get yourself in jail, in legal trouble, and all of this business. Somehow, by coming in touch with Krishna's devotees and these books and chanting, I navigated it, and it's been like a great refuge, this Krishna consciousness movement and Krishna consciousness itself. So here now we're reading about the other side, the demoniac side. Basically, there's two classes of people: the devotees and the demons. You mean there's no middle ground? Well, there are those who are, tend toward the demoniac and are in danger of becoming seriously compromised. And there are those who have a good chance of becoming devotees if they get the proper association. But being in the modes of nature, even the mode of goodness, it's not good enough, because it's always tinged by the mode of passion and ignorance. And in this world, at this age of Kali Yuga, it's a very dangerous age. There's a wonderful verse. There's so many wonderful verses that can condense so many lessons. The concept of boats, a boat, a safe boat that you can ride, across the ocean. So there's many boat verses in the Bhagavatam and out of the Bhagavatam. But one of the favorites that many devotees know, and that Srila Prabhupada loved to chant, is how Krishna's lotus feet is a boat. When you talk of lotus feet, you're talking of service. If you're saying, please let me take shelter of your lotus feet, it's a great refuge. Now just let me tune my activities and thoughts into you, Krishna, and then we'll be on the safe side. That's taking shelter of the lotus feet. So this verse is about the wonderful shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, how we can cross over this ocean which is full of many, many dangers, ocean of birth and death. Samashitaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punya yasho marare pavam budir vatsapadam parampadam padam padam yadvipadam natesham. This is wonderful poetry you can hear. So samashita means taking full shelter. That means really seriously wanting to tune one's life in such a way that it's completely in tune with Krishna's desires. That's surrender. Padapallava plavam. The lotus feet, which are like a boat. Plavam is a boat. Pallava is the lotus. What is that? What are those? Mahatpadam. the whole universe, Mahatattva, is resting on those lotus feet, or it can mean the Mahatmas, the great souls, have taken shelter of that lotus feet. That's where you'll find them. Punya Yasha Murari. Murari is a name for Krishna because he once killed this demon called Mura. You'll read about it in the Krishna book if you read a nice Krishna book. So that's one name for him. And Punya Yasha means just by glorifying that Lord, you become pious through the sound vibration, through the impurities. So Punya Yasha Murari. So what happens? Bhavambudhi. Now this is a very important word. Ambudhi means ocean. We're familiar how powerful the ocean is, how vast the ocean can be. And this is an ocean of bhava. Now bhava means change, the basic meaning of it. Always changing. This is what material life is like, constantly change. Asat. It's not eternal, it's always changing. And what are the main changes? Birth, old age, disease, and death. So bhavambudhi basically means being trapped in samsara, the ocean of birth, old age, disease, and death, which means suffering. So that whole ocean, when you take shelter of that boat of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, it's a kind of a paradox. The ocean shrinks down to the water that can be contained not in a cow's footprint, but in a calf's footprint, even smaller than a cow. In other words, you take a shelter of the boat, now you don't need the boat. You can just step right over the ocean. There's a lot going on in the birth. And then he describes, why is that? Parampadam, because you've gone to the supreme abode, the supreme situation. Even though you may be physically in this material world, your consciousness is always with Krishna, and so you're in the spiritual world. This we saw with Prabhupada, it's practical. Parampadam means the supreme situation. And then it describes what you don't have to suffer. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. Not for them, natesham is this place where there is vipadam at every step. Right? Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. We're all old enough to have experienced hazards that maybe we just barely avoided or we couldn't avoid. You never know what's coming. Who in this world predicted that from 20 to 20, the end of 22, 23, however it was, almost 3 years, that the whole world would be endangered by this invisible disease, this virus that was mutating and becoming more dangerous. We just went through that. And we're not through it. Everyone who went through it is a memory there. It can happen again. You know, that's the nature of this world. Suddenly, you realize your existence in this body is very tenuous. It happens to everybody. So that's why padam padam yad vipadam. There's danger at every step. But once you're situated securely at Krishna's lotus feet by devotional service and your consciousness is fixed on it, then whatever danger there may be, it's not going to affect you. It may affect your body, you know, but you're not the body. You're securely at Krishna's lotus feet, and once this body is dead and gone, you go safely back to Godhead for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. It is not a dream. This world is a dream. Trying to enjoy a secure place of happiness in this world, that's a dream. That's a phantasmagoria, if I would use the word. Very effective. So do we want to live this dream world in which it all eventually turns into a nightmare? Because all our dreams for happiness and security are dashed. You know, it doesn't take a genius to see it. Right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, you know, the Bhagavatam begins again at the beginning of the second canto. There's like the whole first canto is really a preparation describing how the book comes to be. Now it's full of very essential instructions, don't get me wrong. But ultimately it begins again when Shukadeva Goswami sits down and Maharaj Pariksit is there, you know, and Pariksit starts asking questions. He actually asked a question at the very end of the first canto. What should one do? Well, there's such a dramatic scene. King Pariksit, he was the emperor of the world. He was a very pious king. He had taken care of, you know, the personification of Kali, which had threatened to come in. It's a whole story. And he was the last remaining descendant of the Pandavas. Very, you know, wonderful devotee. But he made a mistake. He cursed his sage. And the son of the sage became enraged. He was a Brahmin boy who had been trained and he had Brahminical powers, but he didn't have the maturity. And so he cursed Pariksit, the emperor of the world, to die in 7 days by being bitten by a snake, which is horrific, you know. He could have counteracted the curse or asked Krishna, but he accepted it. So this is a fate. So now I have 7 days to live. What should I do? So he gave up all of his position and his kingly garb, and he dressed as a mendicant, went to the bank of the Ganges, and sat there and waited. And Shukadeva Goswami came, the greatest scholar who had heard Bhagavatam from his father Vyasadeva, and was ready to speak it. And all great sages gathered, and then the Bhagavatam begins at the beginning of the second canto. Again, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The book begins again. And Parikshit asked the question at the end of the first canto. When one is about to die, what should one do? What should he hear? How should he direct his mind? What should you do? And Shukadeva praises the question. Vadiyani shite prashna kato loka hetang napa atmavit samatang mangsang shorta vyadasha yakparaha. It's a wonderful question. Vadiyan, this is the best question. Because this question can produce the benefit for people in general. Those who hear the answer to this question, and those who speak it, those who hear it directly, are all benefited. So a very wonderful question. But before he answers the question, he describes what the alternative is. It all depends, basically a consciousness depends very much on what you choose to hear or read, and what you choose to speak or write. So, but then he says, Shota vyadini raja ninang santita hasrata pashyatama atmatatvam griheshu gramedinam. Ordinary people enmeshed in illusion, they have millions of things to hear. With the advent of the internet and the cell phone, it's billions of things to hear. There's unlimited things, right? A small portion of which are about Krishna. We are also on the internet, there's no question about it. But when you look at this, so if you don't have any guidance, you're going to get tangled up in this. So then what's the result of that? So apashyatam atma tattvam, people who don't understand the need for understanding the soul, apashyatam atma tattvam, griheshu, they simply invest in mostly materialistic family life. Griheshu grimedina. So what do they do? You know, what's their lifestyle? He says, Nidriyariyate naktam vivajena, how do they spend their days and nights? Nidriyariyate naktam vivajena tabhabayak divachartahe rajan kutumba baranenava. This is Shukadeva's first words as he's speaking now. Bhagavatam, introduction. At night, they sleep too much. Especially on Sunday morning. I used to sleep. Get up at 11:30, 12, you know. I wasn't working, I was just in high school, but I was oh, what a relief, you know, just to sleep in. But, or they're wasting their time in sensual activities, sex life, whatever. And during the day, where's money? Where's money? You know, diva chartahe rajan. And on weekend, shopping. Kutumba badanenava. He doesn't use that word directly, although I did hear Prabhupada use it in a lecture one time. It means to support the family, you got to go shopping, you know, this and that, with that. And then Monday, start again. You see? So, in such a lifestyle, you feel threatened by so many things, poverty, you know, or people with guns in this armed madhouse called the United States. And so therefore you need defense. And you have various soldiers. First is a strong body, deha patya, offspring, children, sons, and of course the wife and extended family, adishu, etc. Deha patya kadadarishu atma sainyeshu. These are the soldiers to protect you against danger. And in case something happens, insurance, car insurance, health insurance, fire insurance, right? It's built out of fear. Big industry. All right, we're safe, we're good. Guns, my guns at home, I have so many guns. And so these are atma sainyeshu, but they're asatsu. They're all fallible. In any real dangers, you're not going to be able to be saved by them. You know, your father died before you, your grandfather, you know, and all these things. So it's illusory. You're to be a defense. These are called fallible soldiers. Tesham pramatam nadanam pasyan. Although seeing that such soldiers have been vanquished in the past, you don't see. You don't want to see. You want to have hope that I'm going to survive and I'll be happy and peaceful and everything will be fine. It's just an illusion. It's phantasmagoria. So, then he concludes in 2 verses. Practically the whole lesson of the Bhagavatam is right here at the beginning. If you don't, because of the Kali Yugites, you know, I got this book, but I got so many things to do, you know. If you just read the beginning of the 2nd canto, you can get the whole lesson right there. So there's a tasmad. Don't be like that, like I just described. Bharata sarvatma. No. First he says, whatever you're doing, etavan eva sankhyavyam, etavan sankhya yogabhyam swadharma parinishtiya janmalabhak parapangsam. Who can fill in the last line? What's the most important thing? Ante narayana smriti. Whatever you're doing in your varnashram duties, household duties, and your the practice of Sankhya Yoga, or whatever it may be, it will be tested, it will be successful if you can remember Krishna at the end of life. Why? Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that's the whole ballgame. It's like a test. Your final test is then. Yang vapi smarang bhavam. This is in the 8th chapter. Very essential instructions. Yang vapi smarang bhavam chajat chante kalevanam tam devati kondaya sadatat bhava bhavita. Whatever is the prominent thought in your mind when you finally leave this body, which becomes dysfunctional for any kind of reason, that will determine your next life. It's a science. So what does that say to us? Well, I want to have the best thought. What can that be? He says that in the previous verse. Andakali tamame vasmaran mukvar kalevanam yakpriyati samadbhavam yasina chatta sankshaya. There's no doubt that if you think of me when you have to leave the body, you'll come to me for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So the whole point is, between now and then, to do things which will help us to remember Krishna more and more. So that will be the most prominent thought in our mind when we finally leave this body. So therefore he says, this is therefore at the beginning of the 2nd canto, 1st chapter, text 7 or so. Tasmat, therefore, Bharata, O descendant of Bharat. Sarvatma, you can sit here, Prabhu, you can sit in a chair, whatever. But this is ladies, men. Good, very good. Tasmat Bharata, Sarvatma, Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari. He gives 4 definitions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. O Bharata, the descendant of Bharat. This is Maharaj Pariksit, is very exalted. If you want to get a book, you can. Yeah, that's yours. You can sit there if you want.
Thank you.
Sure. And we are on page 633, 632, 33. So this is, I'll conclude here, and then we maybe read another verse. Tasmat Bharata, Sarvatma, the super soul, soul of all, Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, Hari. 4 different names of Krishna. Sarvatma, Bhagavan Ishvara, Hari. What should we do? Shrotavya, hear about him. Kirtitavya, chant about him. Smartavya, thus remember him. Smartavya, chechitabhayam. If you want to be fearless at that moment of death, when it's terrifying. I used to work in a hospital as an inhalation therapist. I saw many people die. Mostly they're sedated because they're freaking out, you know, for who knows, days, weeks before, you know. But it's not a situation where someone is seeing the Vaikuntha airplane coming for them. It can be very terrifying. We saw that with the Jamil. Anyway, that's a different story. But he had a special situation. But he saw the Yamadutas coming. You know, they're not friendly. They're coming to take you to the other place. So anyway, Bhagavan, no, that's a different route. One should hear, what should one hear when death approaches? Hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna. Thus constantly remember Krishna if you want to be fearless when the final moment comes. Who doesn't want to be fearless? Of course we do. We want to be placid and self-controlled, equipoised, famous word. It's only possible when you're absolutely 100% convinced that you're not the body and that you know, you're in Krishna's hands. Which you can achieve that if you cultivate Krishna consciousness seriously. Because there's always at every moment of your waking day. There's a Krishna conscious way of doing it, and there's a Mayak way of doing it. And by default, we're going to forget Krishna. We have to make an effort to chant regularly, become habituated to thinking of Krishna and working for Krishna, thinking of Krishna, doing everything related to Krishna. And it's not a slavery. It's our natural position to take our pleasure in the pleasure of the Lord. This is the science. Is that, well, what about me? When naturally say, what about my, that is you. When the soul is connected to Krishna properly, then at every moment you can relish your activities in giving Krishna pleasure. How do we know what to do for Krishna's pleasure? That's why we need the books, and we need the acharyas, we need the gurus to inform us. But the most simple way of pleasing Krishna is chant. Chant. Make it every day, and chant and hear with attention and understand the tremendous impact. This is the most, profound, meaningful philosophy that there can be. The real nature of the soul. We're all like unto gods. We're divine by nature, but we've become mundane by identifying ourselves with the material body. Contaminated. Yes, very good. So anyway, I don't want to keep haranguing you, but somehow, I don't know why it is, but this chapter always inspires me, especially we're coming on some of my favorite verses, 21, 22, and 23 and 24. 24? Yes, 24 is the last verse. It's a tremendous crescendo to this chapter. And I think you want to ask a question. Is that why you're holding? Oh, you're holding for her. Okay. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. My question is, when we're speaking about how someone can come into this life to a demoniac person, like a demon. My question is, could a demoniac person turn into a true devotee?
Yes, indeed.
How?
How? Well, first of all, we are originally, innately divine. We have, due to turning our back on Krishna, there's the passages in the Shastra that describe how it's done. The first idea is that we're never created. We're as eternal as Krishna. And our natural position is in Krishna Leela, pastimes forever. But that means that we're seeing him as the prime actor and we're serving, in various objects. But we always forget, what about me? That is our natural state of happiness. But it only works when we do it by free will. If there's slavery involved, then that's material world. It's all free will. So that means we have independence, minute independence. We can withdraw our love and try to do something else, and that's what we've done. We've instead of, it's very graphic, you turn away from Krishna. Vimukha cetasa means literally turning your face away, so that you want to try to be Krishna. You want to try to be the enjoyer and controller, and that's what everybody is big here. And so then that's what this material world is all about. It's a field for us to try to enact this false identity. It's not natural, but we've been doing it for so long, and we have a mind filled with all kinds of ideas of enjoyment, and we try to fulfill them. Sometimes we succeed, mostly we don't, and we go through life that way, and then we die with all kinds of unfulfilled desires, and we then get another chance in the next life. And if we've acted sinfully, we've been very cruel, we may very well lose the human form of life. There's all these lower forms. They're also living entities. Every ant that walks by, every blade of grass, all these big tall trees. Have you ever looked at these poor trees, standing there? I've been here 34 years. They've all been there, When the real wind blows, then they lose some foliage. It comes down, But what a life, Of course, the ones out here may be fortunate because they may hear some kirtan. But the point is, it's a tragedy. This whole material world is a tragic situation. and we've been part of it. And so, and we can become demons. Demons simply means not just ignoring God, but becoming active enemies of God. Like we have the examples of Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, and Ravana, like that. But even our contemporaries, people who rail against God, who don't, professional atheists. They write books. They try to spread atheism. They even have churches of atheists, because they were envious, the nice fellowship that would come. We want to have fellowship also. So, yeah, I swear I've heard about it. I don't know how successful it is. So, the point is that a demon can become a devotee by getting the blessings of a real devotee. And we see that with Narada Muni. There's a story about a hunter who was not just killing animals, but half killing them, getting pleasure out of the pain in the animals. This is like demoniac, sadism and sociopathy and schadenfreude. So Narada Muni, he came across, he was walking in the forest, he saw these poor animals writhing in agony who had been shot but not killed. Finally he came to the hunter, he said, "Is this your work?" He said, "Yes, this is the way my father taught me." He said, "Well, can't you just, all right, you're a hunter, but can't you just kill them outright?" He said, "No, what's wrong with killing them this way?" He says, "Because you're going to have to suffer more, and I think there's one version of the story where he was, by his mystic power, he showed him the animals waiting to get him after death and get their revenge, So the hunter was receptive, because Narada Muni is such wonderful personality. So he says, "Well, what can I do?" Well, you have to give up your profession. And just chant Hare Krishna, give everything away to the Brahmins, and then, "Well, how will I live?" He said, "Don't worry, you just do that, I'll send you your necessities." So how did he prove it? He had to break his bow. So he broke the bow, surrendered to Narada, started chanting Hare Krishna. So then sometime later, Narada Muni came back with his friend, Parvat Muni. These are great souls who preached Krishna consciousness all over the universe. He said, "Come on, I want to show you one of my disciples." So he came, and what happened was that the hunter had become famous. He became a sage, and they retired, gave everything away, and he was chanting. And so the people would come and visit him. Said, "Oh, the hunter's become a Vaishnava." Then they would bring bags of rice and everything. So he had more than he needed. Narada Muni, it inspired him. So he was nicely maintained. So this hunter, he sees his spiritual master coming. And he's very jubilant. So Narada Muni's come, so he gets up and he's waving his cloth, his chadar. And of course he was bowing down, but when he bows down, he starts jumping here and then jumping. What's the jumping? So finally Narada Muni and Parvat come and they say, "Oh, that's very nice. It's very nice. What's all the jumping?" "Oh, I didn't want to kill any of the ants on the path, so I had to avoid them. They're all over the place." So here's this demoniac hunter who's taking pleasure in seeing the writhing agony of and didn't even want to kill an ant. He didn't want to hurt an ant. So as a demon, he became a devotee. He became purified. So this is encouraging for us, because when I first read this chapter, I really identified, that, well, that's pretty much what I'm like. But I didn't like, the end of it, which is that I thrust him down into hell for, like it. So anyway, the nature of the material world is, if we don't have proper guidance, that we can get infected with all of these bad qualities. But Krishna consciousness is a systematic purification of our personality, of our consciousness, and that's who we really are. So no matter where we come from, if we seriously take shelter of the authority and we follow the rules and regulations and we chant Hare Krishna, then we can become, the sinners can become saints. The demons can become devotees. It happens all the time. I'm sorry, I kind of took a lot of yeah. So we have time for one little poem. Is that okay? Oh, Jean, go ahead.
I have a quick question. I think there's another microphone over there, or you can have it.
Oh, there's a mic right there.
I have this. Can you hear me? Hello? No.
Uh-oh.
Maybe you know. Hello?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Go.
I have this letter from...
Hold it a little closer.
this letter from Gunagarahi Maharaj. This was sent to me a while back when my mom passed away.
Okay.
He mentions in the letter that if a family member becomes Krishna conscious of a deceased relative that turned towards Krishna, that the deceased relative enjoys great spiritual benefit.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah.
I thought that was really...
Yeah, comes up with Prahlad, where there are like generations are benefited just from Prahlad being a devotee. And you think about it like this: your ancestors who passed away, what can help them? Well, they're still alive. Nobody dies, and they may be suffering somewhere, but they have a connection with you, and so you're thinking about them. They can't be thinking about you. They don't even know you, but you can think about them. So there's this connection, and on that level, the higher authorities. Remember Daivanetana, Karmana Daivanetana. So the super soul sees that relationship, and it's because of your devotion that there is some favor for them also. They're able to become purified, blessed. Yes, because of that connection. And those who come after you, they think of you. You're thinking of the previous ones who have died, and the ones who come after you, they think of you because oh yeah, we had this great devotee in my life, and so there's also that subtle connection on the ethereal platform or the astral plane, whatever you mean. And so Krishna sees that, and it's very much, because love me, love my dog, Because you're related to Prahlad, therefore Banasura, he was an asura, he was a demon, but he had 1,000 arms and he wanted to do battle with Krishna. So Krishna didn't kill him. He chopped off 996 arms, but he didn't kill him because he was related to Prahlad. What to speak of Bali, who was a demon turned into a devotee, into a Mahajan, because he gave everything to Vamana. So that's the way it works. That on the higher plane, when you're dealing with Krishna, he sees all the previous generations and the relationships. Says, okay, this person is related to this devotee of mine, then I'm going to mitigate their situation, and it's just a question of natural affection. Yeah. All right, we better adjourn because it really is late. All glories to Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Give me